Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Building as We Fly. This is Luke Tull without Kirsta Tull today. Today's episode is going to be about how I went from $165,000 in consumer debt to no debts at all, except for the house, of course. So no more consumer debts. And it was quite the journey. It took me a long time to get here. It took me a long time to actually figure out how to make money as well. You know, everybody looks like an overnight success until you understand sort of their backstory. So just to take a step back, that's the primary kind of topic of the day. But just to give you a little bit of context, I grew up here in the United States. I was raised in Indiana for the first 20-ish years of my life. And it was a very classic American suburban type childhood where, I had a family of 5. I was the middle child. Schooling was good. There was not a lot of, mishaps or anything like that. It was very standard. I was kind of given the sort of corporate or standard American education. I went to college. I went to Indiana University in Bloomington for 4 years, graduated with a business degree in information and process management. And I took a standard job outside of school. The thing is that outside of school, I always had something that I was looking to accomplish that wasn't school related. I was really into video games, actually a little too much into video games outside of school throughout my whole childhood and even in college. And I always just had this different drive and different sort of passion that wasn't school related. It was almost like I needed a creative outlet or a way of expressing myself that wasn't through the standard means, like the standard schooling, the standard job. But yeah, in 2010, I took my first job, spent about 3 or 4 years at that job. Felt like it was getting boring and getting stale and that I wasn't growing. So I moved on to the next one. Did some consulting, did traveling for a little bit while where we traveled Monday through Thursday to client site and then traveled back. But then as our family was growing, I had to get further and further away from that and realizing that hey, I can't just be on the road 4 days a week. And I also realized that, you can only get so far when it comes to, from a growth perspective. I think the money in corporate America is great. The benefits are fantastic. But I came to the realization eventually that I had outgrown a corporate America, and I don't think I was going to go much further than I was, without jumping companies again, of course. But the problem with that is location and trying to stay close to home. So basically, it was a long journey through corporate America. I was growing all throughout that process when I was doing consulting and taking care of business there. But outside of the corporate cycle, I was taking a bunch of risk and on things that I didn't know much about. And I was definitely taking the wrong approach where I was trying to change my life by taking out debts and then trying to leverage that debt to make even more money. But the thing is, I had no clue what I was doing. I had no expertise in that area. And I kept just taking out debt over and over again. And then eventually I came to a point where the banks wouldn't give me money. And I was like, oh crap. I have $165,000 of personal loans. I think maybe one was a credit card. The personal loans to pay off. And I had no income to show for it, no results. And I was like, wow, what do I do? And so this is where my true entrepreneurship journey began, because I was basically put in a situation where it's you have no money, that coming from outside in, there's no investors and none of that, right? It's just me against $165,000. I still had a full-time job at the time. This was about 6 years ago, 6-7 years ago. And so basically I was like, oh boy, I need to figure out a way to make money. And the thing is, I didn't really know how to do that. And most people don't when we're first starting out. We don't know how to do the things that we haven't done before. And I knew how to make money inside the corporate ladder and inside the corporate doors. I knew how that game worked, but I didn't know anything about money outside of that. And I obviously didn't know a whole lot about personal finance and how everything is supposed to work either. So that basically jump-started my entrepreneurship journey. Like I said, I'd always had external things outside of work. So I was always used to managing something else outside of work. So that was playing to my advantage a bit. So I always knew how to play video games, take those hobbies, specifically video games, a lot. But I always knew how to do those things outside of work and still get stuff done outside of those corporate walls. So I had that going for me. So I did a bunch of research, and in the beginning, I was actually like, crap, I just need to make money. I can't be in a situation where I have to put more money into something. So I started working doing Google Maps reviews and Google search result reviews, like reviewing the results Google was providing to people, reviewing the results that Facebook was providing to people, and whether the post was relevant, what category it fit in. And you got paid like per post. So it was like literally a rat race. Like you had to move as fast as possible on these things and be as accurate as you can, because you're only getting paid per review, basically. So I did that for, gosh, not too long. Like I think I did that for 8 weeks or something like that. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working all these hours and I'm not coming anywhere near close to the money I need. Like I have to do something totally different. And this is what happens. Like you're going to try things and you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, and you're going to learn something. You're going to figure something out, right? So after doing that for about 8 weeks, I stumbled across this concept of drop shipping. And I was like, okay, maybe I can take on this on and try this out. I had a little extra money saved up at that time. So I was like, oh, maybe I can take this on and make this work. There's a ton of videos at the time, 6-7 years ago, about drop shipping and how profitable it can be. Drop shipping is basically just you don't carry in any inventory as a retailer. You sell the product and then you contact the supplier. They send it to your customer, usually from China. So anyway, that's basically what I got into. And I think I started like 8 or 9 different brands or stores. All of them failed. And actually, all the money I had saved up, I went to zero again. So then I was back to square one, and I'm like, oh crap. I actually had to ask Kirsta for money. I'm like, Kirsta, like, I cannot pay the bill collectors this month. I need your help. Which is kind of embarrassing. Not to mention the 165,000 was a little bit embarrassing as well, but actually having to do that again, come back and ask for money again after making that huge mistake, it was almost like even more embarrassing. It's almost like realizing I'm in a really tough spot, and it's reality now. Before it was not reality because I just kept taking out loans, right? So I wasn't really understanding what was happening. So anyway, I still knew I needed to do something different. I knew that I couldn't take on a 15 to 20 hour job because it just takes too many hours. I don't have that many hours in a week. I'm still working a full-time job. This is something I'm just doing, early in the morning, late at night. So I still need to sleep, and we still have kids. And so I think we had, say, 2 kids at the time, maybe even 3. Yeah, that probably been like almost like probably 3 kids at that time. So anyway, I did realize something though. I was like, hey, I built all these stores. I actually have the ability to build stores. Like I've always been very technically gifted, and Google's asking me if I should stay on the call or not. Yeah, it's just me. I'm just talking to myself. Anyway, so yes, I was always very technically gifted. Like at the age of 8, I took apart a computer. I took every piece out of it and then put it back together because I was just curious to see how it worked. I was always very good with understanding things very quickly when it comes to computers, when it comes to programming languages and things of that nature. So I realized I had a gift, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe I can't make money selling product, like physical products, but I know I can help people because I have a skill that most people don't have. And that was kind of the aha moment for me. I got started on Upwork around that time. Upwork is a freelance platform where you can sell your services. I think I started off charging similar rate, like $25 an hour. But the difference there was I was like, if I get good at this, I think there's a lot more money at the end of this rainbow than there was if I'm just working the same doing the same thing over and over again. When you grow in entrepreneurship or in a skill that people need and that continues to grow, you can continue to charging more and more money as your skills get better. So I kind of knew that. I wasn't really thinking that way, but I was like, this is just more fun. And it's a little bit more money. And so I basically started out doing like small websites, $25 an hour, and definitely still putting in the work. Don't get me wrong. I was still putting in the work. And that was able to help us sustain and help us start paying off some of that debt. And yeah, it's not easy in the beginning, guys. Like if you really want to change your life and change your situation, there is going to be a level of grit and hard work you have to put in. And I definitely put in my dues, no doubt. Got a lot less sleep in those years, I'm sure. But basically, after doing that for a long time, and I was basically every so often I realized when I'm getting way too maxed out. Like if I'm bidding on jobs and people are wanting my services and I'm getting a lot of demand. Well, I learned something at business school. It's like, hey, if there's a lot of demand for something and there's a limited supply, what do you do? What can you do is basically raise your price. There's a simple chart basically like this. And so as like supply goes up and down or demand go up and down, that's where the price meets. So I'm sure there's some better charts I could probably throw up here, but basically that's just the law of economics. Basically, if there's a lot more of something and people want a lot of it, then the price, it's like a commodity, like toilet paper, except in COVID, but like toilet paper, paper towels, stuff like that, where like they could produce a lot of it, even though it's really high in demand, there's just a lot of it around, right? But I was in a situation where it's just me, but there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of people that want me on working on their websites. So I did realize this, and I was like, I started just doing this thing where I'm like, hey, if I get way too busy, I'm just going to double my rate and just ask for double the money for the next person. Because I'm like, if they want to work with me, that's fine, but I'm not going to be super busy and not get extra benefits or something additional out of that relationship. So I started just doubling my rate. I just kept doing that until basically there was a point where it's like, okay, if I increase my rate this much, there's way less demand. It is a balancing act. So basically that's how I got started in entrepreneurship. I basically was able to work on Upwork outside of, my corporate hours, build up my skill set. And this is kind of just a lesson in listening to what the market needs. And, I think that the big lesson I've learned, and this is also when I went in a bunch of debt, is that if something's not working right away, or it seemed like a huge struggle for you, it's probably not the right area. Either one, you're not good at it. Sorry, I hate to break it to you, but maybe you're just not good at that thing. Or two, the market doesn't really want what you have, right? And it's like we have to have a high level of recognition when it comes to that type of stuff. When it comes to like doing a side hustle or entrepreneurship, you need to be very aware of what people are telling you, what the market is telling you, and really like a critical eye on yourself. Like, am I really that good at this? Am I really naturally gifted? Or is this something I have to really work out to be good at? So example would be video games. Like it took me forever to learn a game, and it took me a lot of practice and a lot of struggle to actually be like, one of the best in that video game. I noticed that the professionals and the people that were like in the top 1%, it just came natural to them. It's just something they did well, right? And when you kind of find that sort of gift, and basically I was struggling with that, and like I didn't accept the fact that I wasn't good. I was very stubborn. I want to be the best. I'm still going to be the best. But I was trying to force a square peg into a round hole. That just wasn't going to work. I was never going to be good enough because I just wasn't that gifted. It really just wasn't my calling. And God, the universe, whatever you want to say, I say God, was like, Luke, this ain't it. And it's almost like he was trying to tell me stop. Right. And I made that mistake several times before I eventually learned that when the universe or God is telling you, hey, this ain't it, you're getting a lot of like clear signs to listen. And it's also important to listen when things are going well, and listening and putting more time into those things that are going well for you. So that's what we talked about in the last few episodes, just to start. But the main thing there is like, yes, you want to get started. You don't want to suffer from analysis paralysis. You just want to get started. You do want to jump in head first, but you want to kind of fill out and say, okay, am I really good at this? Does the market really need it? Am I going to get paid? Is there enough demand for this? And they'll tell you, like, if you start making a lot of money, or you getting a lot of like requests or things coming your way, you're like, okay, there's something here. I'm obviously gifted. The market obviously wants it. So I'm gonna put some more energy and time to this. So yeah, that's basically the story about me. I know it's more from a business perspective. I'm trying to think if there's any other like key lessons I learned. I think as a kid, I was very hard on myself. So if I wasn't very good at something, I would just like hate on myself. My self-talk was terrible. And instead of telling myself, hey, like, this is just not your thing, and it's okay that it's not your thing, you're not gonna be the best at everything in the world. You have your strengths and weaknesses, Luke. I would be like, why am I not the best? Like, why am I not the very best at this thing? And I would just run it into the ground, being stubborn as hell, instead of putting it away and saying, I'm not so good at that. That's okay. I don't have to be good at everything. You don't have to be perfect to be good at your side hustle, or good in an entrepreneurship plan, or even good at your job, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be great at everything. But for me, it was a matter of, improving my self-talk and saying, yeah, you actually are pretty good at website building. You actually are kind of a badass. You're kind of a wizard. And giving myself a little credit. It's like, I think in today's society, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Society and I think culture likes to tell us, hey, you're not good enough. And that drives a lot of our like spending habits and just like emotional eating and all the things that we do that we shouldn't be doing. Like addictive patterns and behaviors. Like, I think a lot of those just come from not loving ourselves enough and not giving ourselves a little bit of credit where it's due. And also not being so harsh on ourselves when something that's not working out, because maybe it's just not for us. So yeah, that's my story. I'm sure there's more to come about this, but now I run this basically web development agency, or web agency, where we're serving some of the biggest clients and some of the biggest companies that have the most complex needs of all of them, right? And so basically put ourselves in a situation where it's like you can only come to us. We're the only ones that kind of solve these sorts of problems. And that's a very powerful position to be in the marketplace. And I very confidently say that. Like, I think we're probably the best when it comes to complex issues, when it comes to user experience, conversion rates. Conversion rate just basically means having more people buy your product or service as they come onto the website. So we help people with that as well. So yeah, it's like all that growth, all that struggle, all those learnings. If I didn't go through those, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today. So it's like, if you're going through a hard time, or going through like a rough patch, just step back and be like, it's okay that I'm going through something hard, because it's all going to make me better. And I think it's like kind of a cheesy saying, some people are like, oh, if it doesn't kill me, it makes me stronger. There's actually quite a bit of truth to that in my experience. And it made me who I am today. And thank God for Kirsta. She sat alongside in this journey with me, and really helped me in many different ways as I was going through it myself. And it gave me some grace, and like, she didn't have to do that. She could have easily bailed at any moment, I think, even though we are married. Again, society, culture likes to push jump as soon as it gets hard. But she was really like stubborn and like stay with me no matter what kind of like issues or problems we were having. And I think that really like strengthened our relationship. And it's been a very like powerful experience. And now we're in a situation where it's like, I can give more back to my family. I can give more back to my kids, because one, I love myself. It's just part of who I am. And I have the flexibility to pick and choose what things I would want to do. And I also have a small team that supports me today as well. So just know that like, yeah, things are tough, things are hard, that like, it's happening for a reason. Like, I don't actually, if I think back, I don't kick myself for those problems I had. I'm like, actually, I think I had to go through those things to learn. I'm very stubborn, like I said. And I don't think I would have learned it unless I went through some of those struggles. And actually, I'm going to keep going, guys, because I'm on it now. Here we go. Get ready. Buckle up, everybody. I actually prayed. When I was about 10 years ago, when I first started working in corporate America. I'm like, give me a bunch of problems, give me a bunch of issues. It's almost like I knew that I needed those to grow. I think I was very stagnant. I was very bored. I knew I was not in the right place, but I didn't know exactly. I was very lost, right? Not really sure where I'm at. And first off, trust that. If you feel that way, trust that. Don't stuff that. Don't bury that feeling. Trust in yourself. If your body's saying or your mind is saying, this doesn't feel quite right, or I don't feel like I'm in the right place in life, trust it and run with it as far as you can. Run with it until you find what you feel like your calling is, what you're built for. Run until you feel good about what you're doing, like professionally. Keep running. Because if we don't do that and we stuff those emotions, guess what? You're going to look back 30 years from now and be like, shit, I should have listened to myself because I regret everything now. I don't want you to be there. And I don't want to be there either. It's just no longer about the money. But anyway, when I was like 25, I prayed that prayer. And I don't think I knew what I was asking for. Because I think I met my wife. Was it before or after that? It might have been shortly after that. So I met Kirsta after that. And that was like a most beautiful thing that happened to me. One of the most beautiful things that happened in my life to me, meeting her, marrying her and whatnot. But those problems still came because I think I asked for them. And again, I think it would look different if she wasn't with me. So that's also kind of interesting thing to think about. But anyway, so yeah, like I think I prayed that prayer just knowing that I needed the hardships. I needed some toughness. I needed to go through some like significant failures because up until that point in my life, I never faced like any sort of like big failure. Yeah, I had some mishaps here and there throughout my childhood, but nothing major and nothing that really like would significantly shift me to where I need to be. So again, if you have like a little voice telling you something, listen, because there's probably some truth to that. There's something underneath the surface that maybe you haven't addressed yet. Maybe you haven't done something that you want to do. And that's what I would say. It's been an amazing journey. Like literally the past 6-7 years have been absolutely incredible. I would even say that this past year has been completely transformational for a variety of reasons. I'm in a men's group. It's called The Path. And that's been a very big anchor for me as well, pushing me to be my best, pushing me to be great, pushing me to be myself, just being authentic and being real. And then also taking that leap from corporate America to entrepreneurship. So just realize that it's not about the destination. It's about the process. It's about learning. I'm just getting better every day. And that's all I really care about. I don't care that I'm not making, X amount of dollars, right? Whatever the goal would be. That's not that important. What's important is that I'm progressing, I'm growing, and I'm changing as a person. So also keep that in mind. Like a lot of people like to beat themselves up. Oh, I'm not Elon Musk. It's like, okay, most people won't be. Let's just be fair about that for a second, guys. Quite gifted when it comes to business. As an example, right? It's just one example. And I think we have to be okay with that because we're all at different places in our life. And, we're not all supposed to be Elon Musk. We're not all supposed to be Jeff Bezos. We're not all supposed to be this sick, crazy entrepreneur, right? Maybe that's just not our life trajectory. And that's okay. We have to be okay with that. I know I've become more okay with it as of late where I'm just like, that's okay. I don't have to be that guy. I'm Luke Toll. That's who I am. And my journey and path and my idea of success is different. It's not about the money. It's about the balance. It's about spending time with my family, but it's about also creating great things, and changing the world for the better, right? It's something bigger than myself. So yeah, I know this has kind of been a little bit rambly, but I just wanted to kind of give you some of the insights I've learned over the past 6-7 years, and that it's not always easy. It's not always amazing either. That there are ups and downs and there are valleys, but just keep pushing and trust yourself and believe in yourself, and you'll get to where you want to be eventually. As long as you bring on the right people, you take the right kind of risk. And again, don't worry about taking the right risk. I think just taking some risk is probably good, and just trying things out in a very small way to see how they work. And then if it's working more and more, then yeah, I want to take it and run with it. So don't be like me and take a bigger risk and then get smacked upside the head and say that was really not smart, Luke. And then owe a bunch of money to the banks. So yeah, all in all, I appreciate all of you. This is episode 4 as Building as We Fly. Luke Toll signing out. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.